You're going to start recording it right now if I say something really stupid.
That's why I told you to say something really stupid. Because Neil say something really stupid, and I hit start recording. I wasn't gonna put that on lovely Stephen Matta. I was gonna throw that on you.
Yeah, I'm avoiding. You got to leave me alone.
Yeah, this is going to be the smallest podcast Stephen Matta will ever be a guest on. So, welcome to the bottom level, Stephen, the Strength Hammer
All
podcast.
right.
It's only up from here. I think you've been higher already.
Springboard. Oh, I've been higher.
Woo!
It's the podcast where even the creators don't listen to it.
The fuck is editing? What are you talking about?
You hit start recording and hit stop recording, and then you just upload it. It's magical. Like, I don't know why the editors and all that stuff. But anyway, so hello everybody. Welcome to the Strength Hammer. I guess this is now the interview series because I'm not doing the regular podcast too often. I'm just interviewing people because it's fun. As you can see, we have Neil tonight and Steven. So tonight we're going to talk about Brewhammer and whatever else kind of comes to mind. So, but before we dive into that, Steven, why don't you kind of let the lovely people who may be watching this, you know, my mom, Neil's wife, maybe our cats, let us know where they can find you, who you are. Give us a little background on Mr. Matta.
Well, you can find me in my basement right now, but I hail from the great city of Columbus, Ohio. Been around and been in the hobby for a while. I try to get out as much as I can to go play events. We have a great scene here in Columbus, and we have a regular reoccurring game night of probably about 10 to 20 players every week, and we have had that since about the beginning of Sigmar. And we decided after 7 or 8 years, maybe we should do something about that. And so we decided to get together and organize an event. And I was the idiot who tried to make it happen. Me and my partner in crime, Chris Steele, who I couldn't have done it without. And
You had done with or without. Is that what you're trying to
with
say?
and without. I can't give Chris enough props, man. He is the master behind the scenes. I'm like
Nice.
loud and I talk and people pay attention to me, and then he does all the actual work. So it's a great symbiotic relationship we got.
See, I'm trying to get Matt to do that for me so I can be the loud one that people pay attention to, but Matt does all the work, but Matt sees through my bullshit.
Yeah. You gotta get him drunk. That's what works for me.
Or see, I know it was this past year I was out in Columbus for a few days for work and got to get a game in with you at was it Guard Tower West? I think out there. Yeah, it's a lovely shop you have out there.
And we have 2 guard tower locations now. You went to the big one, the mothership.
There's some news on that, right? On West. Aren't they expanding or getting a new location or something like that at some point?
They've been in talks for a while on trying to expand, and they're always in the market for new locations. They've been in the same spot for like, God, I don't know, a couple of decades. And I mean, they've already, like, since the guard tower started, they've like knocked down walls and expanded the game room and really kind of built that up. But I mean, I think there's some talk out there about them trying to find like the absolute prime location, and I'd be happy about it too, because the more the merrier, right?
Yeah, I mean, you guys it's a lovely space. It's a beautiful store. But whenever I pulled in, I remember messaging you frantically because it's right next to also what I would call a dive bar.
And a bodega. So there's a dive bar and then a bodega and then a place where a bunch of underage kids work out of a pizza place. So it's a lovely little.
But you walk in that shop and it's all gone. It's just all magical land after that.
Yeah, it's really nice. We're blessed to have the store, the support, the community that we do. Because I mean, long story short, Brewhammer wouldn't have happened without the help of the guard tower and some other charitable entities that I'm sure I'll make mention of after I get a couple more drinks in me.
There you go.
But yeah, they're really helpful. Wouldn't have been what it was without them.
There we go. Well, Neil, while we got that nice biased rundown of his own event, well, partner of his own event, you were just an attendee. What was your impressions of the first Brewhammer? Just loosely before we dive in deeper.
Well, without kissing too much butt, I mean, Chuck, you and I both ran events before, but
Mhm.
I mean, as far as a venue, a location, how the event was run, prize support, I mean, really top to bottom, it was, I mean, flawless, really. And honestly, it had me a little jealous. I was just like, wow, this makes what I do look like amateur hour. So,
Well, Neil, I'm,
but
I'm gonna reach across the aisle and give you a tug here, buddy. I learned it from you, right?
I
So you
wouldn't I wouldn't give the kudos if it wasn't well deserved, and it really was. So I mean, I'll elaborate more as we go here, but yeah, I was super impressed with you guys. Honestly, that was really impressive for a first event. I mean, to run like that as smoothly as it did with as many people, but yeah, just amazing, really good. Highly recommend it for anybody who's listening to this for the tens of people.
you're making me blush.
If I have one critique of the event, you sold out way too damn fast. I
Yeah.
I knew it was coming, and I saw it pop up, and it was instant. And I was like, holy cow! It
Yeah.
was one of the fastest events I've seen sell out in a long time.
After talking with Chris, I know that he blasted everywhere to try to get the word out, and we were really worried. Like, 'cause it was our first event, right? Like,
Mhm.
are people even going to want to come to this? It's 2 days, it's a drive for some people, and so we were like planning on like having a cheerlead and
Mhm.
go out and like crack the locals, like Chris is there. But yeah, it was 35 minutes and it was sold out,
Yeah,
so
I
that
mean,
was
kudos there.
pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's kind of like dive into the story of it. I know you said like it's a great scene out there. You have tons of great people, Steven. Um, but what made you guys really want to make this event happen? And then what venues did you look at? Why did you decide on Brewhammer? Is it because of the venue, or were you always looking in that direction? Like, give us like that background, that backstory of this.
So it was something that was kind of always a pipe dream, right? Like I had come from old Warhammer, and I'd gone through seventh, eighth edition, gone to events, stuff like that, and I remember my first event and that, like, the feeling, and you guys have gone to events, so you know what I'm talking about. Like, you go in, it's like your first big thing, and you open up the doors, and holy shit, there you are, right? Like, there's everyone there. They're like-minded, cool terrain, cool armies, and it's just an unforgettable thing, right? And since we had such a robust scene in Columbus, I always wanted other people to experience that. But like, we got a lot of shut-ins here, and no one wants to get outside the city, and so we just they never experienced that. And you'd go to Monday night, be a bunch of people there, you'd come regale them with your stories of all the events you go into, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool, it's cool, you should go." And like, well, I don't wanna. But I knew in the back of my mind, all they needed was the bug, right? You gotta give them there, you give them that first taste, and then we'll get people out and traveling. So it was a dream for a few years now, just to make something happen, right? And we looked at all different types of venues. We started out obviously at the Guard Tower as a local store, and they can fit some, but especially when it comes to like kind of the pandemic restrictions and all that, you
Mhm.
can't really pack them in too tight. So we looked at those, wasn't really an option. Then we started looking out into hotel venues, and for some weird reason, a lot of the hotels were booked. The dates weren't good, or the prices were just ridiculous. Like you'd have to have their catered service, their table service, all the other
Mhm.
stuff, and it became to get really pricey. Well, it was just kind of on a happenstance that Chris actually found a place that it's halfway between work and home for me. So it's a place that I've been to a whole bunch. It's like the place I stop off for a beer every once in a while. And he's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this place?" I'm like, yes, I have.
Mhm.
And he's like, I think they have a space. And we just kind of had this eureka moment because I had been back in that space before when it was packed full of tables. And Neil, because you helped us reset it back up, like it had never occurred to me that that place was even big enough. And we
Mhm.
talked to a guy. He was like, "So what do you guys? What are you planning on doing here? Because we have the Columbus Board Game Society comes and plays every once in a while." I'm like, "Well, it's kind of like that. It's a little bit bigger though. We do miniatures." He's like, "Oh, you mean like Warhammer 40K?" I'm like, "Yes,
Yes, but
but not, but yes."
we're like the
If
board
you know what I'm
gamers.
talking
Yeah,
about.
we're like the board
Yeah,
gamers, but we take up a little bit more space, but we drink a lot more.
we drink a
So
lot more. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it was cool.
that's awesome.
And you know,
Yeah.
just clicked. It fell into place, and then things kind of domino as they go from there. Like once it became a reality, once we actually got a venue, then we started reaching out to different you know, charities, different sponsors and things like
Yeah,
that. And that was actually a lot of Chris was doing of
I, yeah, kudos
just going after it.
kudos to Crystal Next. When I looked at the pack, even like when I realized it wasn't gonna, sold out and that was all good, I looked at the pack and just saw like the sponsors you had. You mean Army Painter? I forget there's some. I should have brought it up, but
Yeah,
I should prep
it
for the
was
show better. But you had a lot of great sponsors. I was like, but if you don't ask, you don't get it. But I was impressed.
yeah, we had like Dice Baron, Monument
Dice Baron, that's right.
Hobbies,
Yep.
Army Painter, obviously the Guard Tower, and like even other people from the local like scene that just came by and either helped out or donated stuff. We had 3 people that did not play in the tournament, just came by to say hey and gave a box to the raffle. So it
Nice.
was pretty cool. Yeah.
You guys had a box of cookies too, man. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Jordan or Chris's wife Jordan has her own business that she actually sells cool little decorated cookies, and she's sponsored with a box
That's super cool.
of Cruel Boy Shield cookies too. They're pretty cool.
Oh, that's even better. I didn't see any pictures of those. I'm kind of sad.
Yeah, I probably should have gotten on that. That's my
Come on,
bad.
come on, Neil. What are you doing? What are you doing? So Neil, now we know the backstory. Tell us about when you walked into that venue. Like, obviously they're still setting up. There's no games going on, but give us that initial reaction of what you felt walking in from parking that car through the parking lot, entered the door. What do you see?
Well, I checked out the venue first. Like I loaded up their website, so I kind of had an idea of what I was looking for. Right, I'm driving in from, northeast Ohio. Right, so I had a 45-ish minute drive in because I'm staying at my mother-in-law's, which is kind of outside the city. I run events, right? So there's nothing that kind of grinds my gears more than like somebody who's just kind of strolling in like a minute before it's supposed to be dice rolling, right?
Yeah, it's all the
So
locals, man. Not you guys.
so I was there early. I remember I messaged Chris. I said, "How early is too early to be there?" And he said, "Well, we'll be getting there around 8 o'clock." I was actually the first person through the door. I don't think any of you guys. They opened the doors up for me, so I got to walk back there and see whatever like all you guys set up even before you guys arrived. And so the first thing I did was I got my phone out and I just started recording, just walking around the video and just taking a look at all the tables because I've played at Adepticon, Nova, my events, and for a match play tournament. I've seen pictures of NashCon. I thought the terrain rivaled NashCon in
Oh, thanks.
how nice it was set up. The tables were gorgeous. Every single one of them were almost themed. Almost every single, which is near and dear to
Nice.
my heart. So it was pretty incredible. The prize support table was all out there, just like
That's how you get them in, man. You got
Yeah.
to lure 'em in.
All right. Well, from the player perspective, Neil, what time did you have your first beer?
I had my first beer. Now I'm a coffee drinker in the morning, right?
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
went 2 large coffees first, and I believe I was into my first beer prior to the first game starting.
And by looking at, I did bring up the pack finally. Let's see, that first game started 9:30. So we'll say 9:20. 9:20. Neil's probably
Yeah,
beering it
I
up.
played Paul my first game, so yeah, I definitely was in at least a beer at that point. I took a look at his army. This was a quote unquote mirror match, but not really. And yeah, so I had to drink heavily through that game. That was a little rough.
Same question to you, Stephen, from obviously the opposite end, from the organizer end. When did you have your first beer in hand?
About the same time. And I think Neil, you might have been the one to hand me my first beer. I'm not sure, but it was early. I had to coast it after that because it was, all the adrenaline rushing, everything's happening, like everyone's arriving, and yeah, it's fun, but the beer metabolizes pretty quickly. You got all that energy.
Running the events is a little more stressful than playing in them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I want to know more about your perspective from running the event. But before we do, because I know, Neil, why don't you give us a quick little overview of your 5 games and your opponents? Stephen, whenever you hear him talking about how bad he was doing and you can recall a moment of looking over and seeing him just wallowing in defeat, top of one. That, peek in and let us know if you saw those moments too.
I can kind of jump off and say that didn't really happen to Neil. Like Neil can just be getting pounded into the dirt mercilessly, and you just look over and he's got a smile. So
Okay, good.
you could never tell.
You can't tell. I'm dying inside.
Yeah.
But
you could tell in our private Strength Hammer chat sometimes.
It's only when I play Dave do I get salty. That's the only time.
Well, it's because it takes 4 years.
I tried to pull up BCP and then realized I had to subscribe to get my past opponents.
Yeah, it shuts off after I think a week past the event.
Yeah, and so
just
just
give us a rundown of the games. That's fine.
I'm the worst with names.
If you played Neil and you're watching this, comment below, like and subscribe.
Yeah,
there we go.
And just tell me how bad of a person I am for not remembering your name. I will say that I played my third game was against Joe Barco, who got my best opponent. And small world, small gamers world too. His uncle actually is up here in Ren 4, and I didn't know that until I played him. And I posted on the way. He's like, "Hey, that's my nephew."
There you go.
Like, that's pretty cool. So, but no, my first game was against Paul, and Paul is a local Columbus guy. He was playing Soul Blight, and he took he had Manfred. He had, this is what I remember from his army: zombies, Manfred, the Death Giant. Can't remember the particular name on that guy, and then a Zombie Lord or Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. And he proceeded to teach me how to play Soul Blight, which was nice because when you go into a tournament, what you really need to do is know your army. So Paul taught me how to play my army so that I could go forward and play better in some next games. So I think I scored 4 points in maybe the first turn, and then proceeded to score no more points for the rest of the game, except at the very end. Paul's like, yeah, if you get those guys in the back there, he's like, I'm not going to attack them, so you can have that, that 2 points. So it's like, thanks, guy. So I scored 6 total points, and I think he maxed on me. So it was a bloodbath.
All right.
We had a big zombie mashup in the middle. I remember, which was kind of cool because I would kill some of his zombies, and then I would get zombies. Then he would kill some of my zombies, and he would get zombies. And that went on for about 3 turns. And really, the game could have been over in 20 minutes, except we just had to keep putting zombies.
Yeah, that narratively feels like that shouldn't work. Right. Once you kill a zombie, it shouldn't be able to come back as a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
So my next game was against Beast Claw. And one of my things about my army was I was playing a lot of... So I played 40 zombies, 20 zombies, 30 skeletons, and 20 Graveguard for just like the base line troops. And then I had Manfred. I had Manfred, Radikar the Beast. I had Belladama, and I had a Vampire Lord just on foot. And then I had the Corpse Cart. That was pretty much my list. So it didn't have a lot of maneuverability to it outside of maybe popping out of some grave sites, which I'm not a good enough player to risk that. I was just like, I'll put them in the grave site. And somebody would be like, bloop. And like, I guess I'm never bringing those on the board. So that tend to makes me too nervous. So I just put them bow, and it's kind of the march of the zombie bros. And so we had a really good game. What it came down to in that game was I brought some Graveguard back from the dead, and I needed to score. What's the one where you're trying to get into the opponent's territory? You need 2 units.
Aggressive expansion.
Yep.
Aggressive expansions. There it is. I easily could have got Manfred in there. That would have worked. And then I looked at what if I gave them the full run, 6 inches, where I had initially set these guys up, and if I was forward thinking a turn ahead of time, I could have made this work. But where I set them up originally was a half an inch away from scoring aggressive expansion, and so I lost that game by a point. The 2 points would have got me the win there. So, but that's how I play the game. So, we don't like to think ahead. That's the wrong thing to do most of the time.
All right.
So that's 0-2 so far on the first day. Continuing to drink heavily. At that point, I'm out, and it was actually after the first game. We're getting the food trucks, right? Can I say,
Ooh.
by the way, they had food trucks at this venue, and the food trucks were out of this world
Oh,
good.
damn. What was the
They were
options? What was the
so
options?
good. The first day, what we had was Mexican the first day or second day? Mexican was
Mexican was second day. Taco Mania was second day.
Yeah, and I had a chicken. They had like a gyro, a Euro van or whatever,
Mhm.
and I think I got a spicy chicken Philly. It's making emotional just thinking about it.
That's
It was
that's
some good
impressive.
stuff. So yeah, well fed there the
Mhm.
whole time. Hydrated the entire time as well. So yeah, going into game 3, this is my game against Joe Barco. I get to play Cruel Boys for the first time ever. Never played him before. And the long and skinny about that game is just everything went right for me. Everything went wrong for him. What I discovered about Joe was Joe is me,
Oh, I was gonna
and
say.
and so as I'm winning the game now, I'm 0-2. I've lost 2. Really desperate to try and get a win here on the first day. And as I'm winning the game, I realize I'm not enjoying it because it felt like me beating me. It's just like it was a bad feeling, right? Not because whatever. It was a fine game. It was a fun game between us. But yeah, it was just a very similar mentalities to the way we approached the game. And so for me to have won that, it was how it was going for him. I've been on the other end of that too many times to see that.
That's good.
So what happened was Belladama, she's got a spell where she can make wolves pop out of guys that she kills with the spell, right? And
Mhm.
so I'd got her in range and then just kept on popping off these little hobgrots or whatever they were, and woo, wolf right there, right in range of all the shooting. So he has to shoot the wolves, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. It just kept on happening while my whole army just kind of went, and then that was that.
So give us tell you what, give us like a day one wrap up, because then I do want to go back to Steven and see what his day one experience was like here.
So day 1 wrap up, 1 and 2
Mhm.
on the game. Two very competitive games that I played. One which I won, one in which I lost by just a little bit, and one just absolute slaying. So food was awesome, beer was awesome. I mean, I kept going back up, and just whenever we had a free moment, grabbing beers and everything. So um, I personally didn't see anybody having any issues on any of the tables. I don't know if maybe between more of the competitive guys out there, maybe there was a hiccup here or there, but anything that I saw, I didn't see anything really. So I will talk to Steve more about that, but I didn't see a single person having an issue anywhere. So and certainly nobody was seeming salty around me. Everybody seemed like they were having a good time.
Nice. Well, I mean, give us a lowdown, Steven. Day one, your first time, I guess, running an event, at least of this size for sure. Even with your partner Chris. So, what was it? Experience it. What'd you see? What'd you like? What'd you hate?
So let me tell you a tale. It's called the Brewhammer that almost wasn't. Many might recall that in good old Ohio and a lot of the Midwest, we had a hell of a blizzard a couple of days before Brewhammer,
Yep.
and I was stuck on Lake Erie, so it's about 3 hours away. And my partner in crime, Chris, is here trying to get like stuff organized, trying to get like tables ready, trying to make sure that everything's still happening. We even know if the brewery's going to be open.
Mhm.
We talked to the guy organizer there, and he's like, "Yeah, maybe. Check back in a day or two." And we're like, "Well, shit." So,
I, I did
so
as I sipped my coffee the Friday morning and I saw the 15 inches of snow I got. I was
yeah,
going. I hope it's okay for them.
yeah. So like we luckily
If it had been
places opened up.
if it had been a day later, I think you might have been screwed.
Oh yeah, no.
Honestly.
If the blizzard hadn't hit when it hit, if it was a day later, it would have been toast. Because as it happened on Friday late, I was driving furiously and dangerously in a level 1 back into Columbus. Chris was going around getting tables and getting all the things sorted. And they did open up the doors for us the next day, thankfully. And I'll tell you what, though, even despite the conditions, which got a little better on Saturday, but they're still roads weren't great. we had 40 people signed up, and damn it if 40 people didn't show up that morning, and everybody was there to check in. And that was a big thing, a big positive kind of start off to the event, right? It felt really good to have everyone there, everybody ready to play. And it was kind of a blur, a couple of days, if I'm honest. But there are some standout moments. I mean, uh, people kept telling me a couple of things like the tables look great, and I take a lot of pride in that. Not that I painted all the terrain, but it was a big community effort. Thanks in part mostly to Sean Phillips and Brian Barlow, who just had most of that terrain painted in their garages. And when I tell you, like, we've been planning on this for years, like, they had been planning on it for a few decades, right? Like, they had tubs and tubs and tubs of terrain. So when we were even like kicking the idea around having it, and we're like, well, how many tables do we have to 3D print? How much terrain do we have to buy? That whole shtick that you got to do. And they're each like, well, I could probably put about 10 tables up. And I'm like,
What?
like individually east? Like, yeah, they're like, yeah, we probably put out 10. And as it turns out, like they had between the two of them probably about 18 tables worth of terrain. And then we had a couple of tables that we had commissioned painted by some local painters, and they provided one we just kind of kept there and we'll use again next year. But the other one, our table one, was donated by Missy, the happy little heretic, on Facebook. And one of our prize options was that whole table with the painted terrain and the mat that came on it, and that was one of the things we raffled off.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
incredible.
So that was kind of cool, and it was right. The terrain looked great. It was right up on table one, so a lot of the people got to play and have some fun on it for the weekend. So that was kind of cool. But that and the people really like the 3-hour rounds. So
Yeah.
That was huge. Huge.
if I have one bit of advice from my amateur ass to say out there to those organizing events, like, people appreciate that extra time, 3-hour rounds. And I'd like to think I wasn't super mean about it, but we were on the clock and we were making announcements, making sure games were finishing, because to me, like, nothing feels worse than like not being able to get through and not knowing what would have been. Like, yeah, you can talk out the last couple of rounds, but if you don't finish your game, it just feels a little incomplete.
Right.
And so I like to try to help usher people along, be like, hey, how you guys doing? What's going on? What turn you ins? So on and so forth. Because another great thing about Age of Sigmar is there aren't too many questions for the TOs. I mean, we had a few calls that we had to make throughout the weekend, but most people know what they're doing, or they kind of come to the agreement together. So a lot of the times that I got to spend, thankfully, was walking around, socializing, talking to people that came from like everywhere. I mean, we had them from up north. We had someone drive from dang near Florida. Tom flew
Thomas
out.
Swan, yeah.
Yeah, he flew out from California. There's just everywhere. So I got to socialize, meet a lot of new people,
Nice.
and that was really cool. So it wasn't the hardest job. I mean, just had to kind of herd the cats for the first day, make sure everyone was where they needed to go, and and try to sell as many raffle tickets as we could, because the other big part of this event was we had a raffle. We had the prizes for the winners, but all of our prize support that we actually gave away, we gave away through a ticket thing that we sold for charity. We sponsored with Table War for autism advocacy.
Nice.
And every single raffle ticket that we sold went towards that charity, and we ended up raising, I think, like $1,004 or something for advocacy autism, and it was pretty cool. So I had to wine and dine and whore myself out a little bit to try to sell some tickets. That was a good part of my job too. But yeah, it was, rounds ended up. I think most people finished all their games. Just kind of running around doing announcements, having an occasional beer, because I mean it was at a brewery. So what are you gonna do, right?
You got to. You have to. It's the law.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say if I could jump in for a second, I thought the 3 hours was huge. I finished my first 4 games that I played all within the 3 hours. The only one I actually pushed the time limit on was the last one. When you're playing for last place, you really gotta work at that for that W.
Well, that was Joe, and we all love Joe, and I really hope he doesn't take offense to this, but he is our Neil. Like he is a great guy. He is one of my favorite people in the world to play. He has such a great attitude, and he paints really well.
Great painter. Great
Yeah.
painter. Yeah.
And he has the right attitude about the game.
Yeah.
He goes in with it, gonna have fun, likes to see the scenic moments happen. But when you do that type of stuff, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And so yeah, I was happy you guys both finished your game 3. So
I have to say, just to jump into a couple things you said, like, I agree with you guys completely. 3-hour rounds is amazing. That's what we were doing at the U.S. Open. It kept things nice and relaxed. Also, tables being spaced out, I think, should just stay here forever, as much as possible. But the one thing that you're doing, Stephen, and being like a more regional style event like you had, where you didn't have, you had 40 people. That's manageable quite easily to do this, go table to table. But at the U.S. Open, and something I'm gonna kind of partake for, and I recommend it for every event, to call out like those landmarks. Hey, you should be done deploying. You should be through round 2 right now. Like, just kind of not a hard and fast, like you're in round 2 or you're behind. Just kind of like help remind people, like, instead of going, you have 3 hours, see 3 hours. That little gentle reminder, like, yeah, if you can do it going around table to table and also getting to chat with people and have fun, that's the best way to do it. But if it's a bigger event, maybe call it out. But like that's a great thing that you did there. As a player at the events, I appreciate when people are reminding me, because sometimes you get lost just chatting. You want to know what's going on with people. You're doing cool stuff on table, or you've had 6 beers and it's round 2.
I'm not going to say that didn't happen. I do not recall either way.
That's fantastic. Well, Neil, why don't you regale us with the last 2 games of your event?
Yeah, so the last 2, so I played Nagash and the Emerald Host on my 4th game, and I had a 2 drop in my army. He had a 1, so he won that one. That was one of the first times I think I lost the entire go. So he had me go first. It was yeah, I can't remember the name of the scenario, but it's the shifting objective scenario. Where kind of bound, you kind of roll for which one is worth more.
Thankfully, because another thing I love personally, I know it's a very person-to-person thing, but the scenarios were in the pack, and I love that. So, Neil, you were playing Tectonic Interference.
There we go, Tectonic Interference, just like I knew that was. So yeah, so the deployment for the terrain on the battlefield was thick enough into the deployment zones where when you have 60 zombies and a lot of other junk you have to put down, it starts to get a little complicated as to where you're going to put these bros. And so I divide a lot of stuff, and again, not a great player, but I think to myself, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get these 2 and just hope that whatever rolls is one of these 2. Because if it goes over there, screwed. We're gonna risk it. We're gonna risk it for the biscuit here. So I had a lot of stuff in the middle. 40 zombies, in fact, followed up behind them by like 20 Graveguard, and I pushed them all right into the middle. Turns out that's where it came. So I scored pretty well there. But then Nagash wanted to come in and say hi, and he did. And now those Graveguard were there thinking that, he's going to come through and just wipe out those zombies, which he did. The problem was he won turn 2 as well. So I didn't count up. It was somewhere in the range of, he did 74 wounds over 2 turns.
Okay.
74. Turns out that's a lot. And so we were fighting an uphill battle from then. And actually, the game ended, and I think I lost that game by about 2 or 3 points.
Okay.
So it wound up being fairly close. Just how it progressed afterwards. I did hit a lot of secondaries and whatnot. The Graveguard, even with like 5 Graveguard left, if you buff those buddies enough with some extra attacks, boy, they slap pretty good. So they slap some things around a little bit. I didn't even try and touch Nagash, but I had taken apart most of what was left of the army. I mean, there's not much to it outside of Nagash, but what he has there is pretty resilient too. But so I put up a little fight there, but did lose that game. So now I'm sitting at 1-4, and I remember telling you, Chuck, I texted you, I was just like, well, we're on the bottom tables here. We're just, I'm just going to press stuff forward and make sure the guy that I play in my last game, who's another local Columbus guy, is going to have a nice game, get themselves their win and whatever. And I'm such a bad player, I couldn't even do that. We got playing and it just started being a good game. And I was just like, screw it. Like, and this is the game that actually went like almost to the time limit. I remember Steve's coming by our table like, hey, hey, we're going to finish this game here. What's going on? So, but it wound up, we would have drawn that game. This is another mirror match between Soulblight. He played Avangori. I played Vikros, and he had a couple of Terrorgeists, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. He had a whole boat ton of Graveguard in his army. But yeah, so we would have wound up tying, except he did not get his grand strategy, which was to keep one of his monsters alive. And so the zombies took care of a couple of Terrorgeists, and then I dropped the zombie dragon at the very end. So I wound up winning that by 3 points.
As a fellow organizer, and Neil, you should know this too. If it's game 5 and your game doesn't really matter for the rankings, just finish it. Because you gotta validate the scores. You gotta make sure whatever tracker you're using, be it BCP or War Score, did things correctly. You gotta get ready for just finish it.
Here's the thing, man.
It drives me nuts when I'm sitting there watching someone finish like, we gotta just finish this last round of combat. I'm like, okay, well, you're 10 minutes overdue and you're on table 87. So I'm just gonna mark it as a draw and I'm moving on.
In my defense, all right, young war gamers, you got to pregame poop before you come out. All right, you just got to do that before you leave for the event.
It's true.
All right,
it's true.
And I had a lot of beer, and there was a Mexican food truck, and right at the start of that game, I was like, "I'm sorry, bro, I got to hit the bathroom."
got a funny story about that. So a lot of our local guys, they I don't know if you guys are familiar with the restaurant chain Skyline.
Oh yes.
So that was just chili spaghetti. Just it does fun things to your insides. But so a lot of the guys day one decided, we're gonna do our lunch at Skyline. So they had Skyline, they had beer, they had a whole bunch of fun, and then you could just see them like zipping back and forth to the bathroom. That was a rookie mistake.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah, that's I should have been more veteran than that, but I was like the guy from Dumb and Dumber on the toilet there. Like I think the legs were kicking up and everything. So yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So that delayed the game by a solid 15 minutes.
That's not bad though. I mean, you said you finished up 2 and 3, so
2 and 3.
It's not bad at all.
Oh, right in the middle.
Yeah. What about day 2 from your perspective, Steven? Obviously, it's probably easier at the beginning and then frantic at the back end of it, as you'd expect.
Yeah, it was a lot of like getting people ready. Like day 2 is more where the tournament divides, right? And on this side you have the people who are having fun, and then on this side you have the people that are having a lot of fun. And so and that's where we actually started putting the pairings up on their appropriate tables for the rankings of top games and the.
Were you doing random on the first day? Random.
Just kind of random, just so everybody got the chance to experience all the tables that they could and all that.
I really like that, by the way. That's great.
Yeah, I've also found in my time random tables mellows everything out, because the high competitive person's next to the two guys just having fun, 2 guys or gals having fun, kind of just keeps a perspective across the board. But I still like that you switched it for the last day. That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, the top tables were all right up front, right by the judges' tables, so that's why we kind of paired them up. That way, it made it easier to be there in case questions came up on the top tables, and they weren't far away, didn't have to walk far. So Yeah, so it got a little more serious for some, and for some it just got to be like the party escalated, and you could definitely tell which camp you were in. But yeah, it was I thought people might slow down on day two, but then they didn't, and I loved it. It was great. Um, Ended up having a couple of good rounds. I really didn't have much of like in tournament negative feedback. And I know that's kind of weird thing to say, like who's gonna just come shit in your cereal while you run the event, right? But like I expected maybe some grousing, but there really wasn't much, you know.
Mhm.
It was everyone was there having a good time. I'm sure, because a lot of people were drinking and carrying on. That was probably something to do with it. But it seemed like a really cool and relaxed vibe, which was really fortunate for us, kind of behind the tables, that we didn't have to get any too stressful of situations or like calm anybody down.
Mhm.
But I think that's rare if it does happen, but I'm glad it didn't at our event. So
Right. Well, I think, I mean, in the pack you had little FAQs and rules clarifications of the basic stuff. Because, I mean, as you said, no one really has questions for Sigmar. It's more, this is ambiguous. How are we playing it for this event? That's all people want to
yeah,
know. It's not that it's a, how does this actually work? It says, we know it works either this way or this way. Because we all watch Warhammer Weekly. So which way are you
yeah,
ruling it? Um, and also from my time, I've noticed whenever there are those moments where it's kind of a stressful situation, the best thing you can do as an organizer or just anybody is just get them communicating. Chances are they're not communicating and they're not talking at the same level for some reason. There's some miscommunication going on. And if you get them talking, it usually snaps things back into place pretty quickly, and it's, oh, I'm sorry, and this, and then all of a sudden you're back on doing nothing as a TO, waiting for something to happen, which never happens.
yeah. I mean, it's more just kind of mediating a conversation to begin with. Like there were a few cases where I actually had to like make the call, but I kind of always approach it the same way, right?
Mm.
Walk up to the table and say, "All right, what do you think the interpretation is?" And then what do you think the interpretation is? And then you kind of silence everything up, cut the chitter chatter. Everyone gets their chance to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then if at the end of that they still don't come to agreement, I just say, "Hey, do you want me to make the call as the judge?" And they say yes or no. And if they say yes, then I make my ruling. And maybe I'll confer with colleagues, or maybe I'll just kind of make it there on site.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had it in the pact that the kind of judge's ruling, right or wrong, stands. And I'll say that we got most of them right. I did get one wrong, and so apologize for that. Apparently, uh, catapults with a minimum range, you have to be wholly within that minimum range not to get targeted, which is crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was completely wrong about that. But made the call on the table, and that's how it played out. But it happens.
I mean,
But
yeah.
everyone's respectful of the decision that's made, which was the most important thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, I've never had anyone, when I make a call, whether I'm wrong or right, because I've made wrong calls for sure. They're like, okay, that's perfect. That's how we'll play it. And they finish the game. And if that person has some reason elsewise or finds something after, and actually I appreciate this. I've had, high level players, like I make a call at the table based upon a ruling. I listen to both sides. I look at the rules. This is my calling, and they might come back and say, oh, we missed this in this random FAQ because for some reason OBR's FAQ'd in corn. And I'd be like, okay, hey, no, thank you. I appreciate that you respect me enough to respect my decision, but also help me be better in the end.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I've never had that, and it's like no matter how stressful a situation is, it's okay. That's the ruling. That's what we're doing.
And if you ask for a ruling, really, I mean, you should know what it is, right? You're asking for a ruling. I love Matta that you ask them, do you want me to rule on this, or do you want to figure it out between yourselves, right? If they say yes.
Yeah, most times people
There is.
just want that third person there to talk amongst themselves. That's all.
yeah. Yeah, that was kind of the case. Like it was nice. It was respectful. There wasn't really any at point where I felt like people were pissed off by the calls that was made. So I'm thankful for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, then we had our round four went well. Then we're round five. We had one undefeated match left that kind of decided the game with
Mhm.
a couple of really good players with some really spicy lists. and and it was funny, just like you would see people walk by and they would look at the table and like, ooh, one of those. Like, yeah, glad I'm not there. Also, one of the coolest things was at the event, because it was open to the public. We didn't shut the doors or anything. If people at the brewery wanted to come in and kind of walk around, we let them, and we just kind of kept an eye, make sure they weren't like being a-holes or nothing. But like, you would get the guy who would come in and he would just look and his jaw would drop and he would be like, "What the hell am I looking at?" And then he would go back to the bar. He would grab his two buddies and their girlfriends, and they would all come in, and it would just be like, and then the girls would be like, "Oh my god," and then they'd walk back away. But like, it was like, "Oh my god, hey, yeah, you guys want to come talk about this game we're playing?" Like, what is this? This is crazy, and it's just like someone had pulled the sheets off of this entire culture that they knew nothing about. You know?
What's funny is you may not have known this about it, but like a couple of the bartenders were coming back too because they were getting beers or they were picking up glasses or whatever. And she's like, I just have to come back, and I had to see this. She was saying, I overheard her saying to somebody, she's like, this is really cool. So
that's what you next year is
funny when that nerd culture somehow how creeps into the mainstream.
next year you need to get one of those bartenders that was interested and make them the ringer.
Right. Yeah.
Here you go. Come play.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Or we do like favorite armies voted by people who know nothing about the game.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. What is the venue's name? I'll give it a shout out. I'll put the.
It's the Olentangy River Brewing Company.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put a link to I think their Facebook in the notes. I mean, I know there's no affiliation, but it looked like a cool place, and I imagine you're gonna be back there next year.
I went back there 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, it's halfway between work and my house. I mean, I go there. But now at least I know everybody there, so instead of just being a random barfly.
Start like since all the bartenders and probably the brewmasters were kind of interested, show up with Underworlds.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. I mean, that's an idea. I'll resurrect the game from the dead.
Yes.
Now everyone knows that I'm using Google Meets for free because the 10-minute warning popped up. But hey, everyone, that means there's less than 10 minutes in this podcast, so you know when it's going to be done.
Yeah.
But
keep it under that hour. It's efficient.
Yeah. Nice. So your whole experience, Steven, I mean, this was a great event. I'm hoping to attend it next year and get in before the probably 25-minute sellout next year. Is it happening next year? Around what time? Looking at the same venue? Are you expanding? Give us that little details.
So same venue, February 3rd and 4th. We already got it worked in with the owner. He loved it. They may be doing something super special and cool and fun to help us out with the charity next year, because we are going to do a charity event, same as we did this year. So that's our main goal, is to kind of promote that and make sure that we have a good, like, yes, it's a tournament, yes, you come to compete, but it's there for another cause too, and that's to donate to charity, drink some beer, and have a good time.
I love that.
So it's definitely, we already got our deposit down. We're happening next year, same bat time, same bat channel.
Awesome.
There are talks in the works. If we can maybe start to look a little bit to the future, if we might be able to get a bigger venue. We're shopping around because I think the appetite's there. You might think about a 2 a year type of thing, maybe one a little bit bigger. I don't know. It's very, very early at this point to kind of lock anything in, but just because of how much excitement and how many people had, like, not only people that showed up to the event, but then like their 5 friends back home were like, yeah, let's go do that. Let's do something like that. So I think the appetite's there. If we wanted to expand, it just becomes logistics and finding the right spot at that point. But yeah, at least Brewhammer in this fashion is going to be an annual thing. People loved it. The bar loved us. So yeah, nothing but good things they had to say about us and our gamers, and that's a testament to the community and the type of people that play this game and come out to events, because everybody there was just hands down awesome. Also, we had to make a mention, we had 40 in, like I said. We had no drops either, so 40 in, 40 out. Everybody stayed. Everybody had a good time. So yeah, why wouldn't we do it again?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Awesome.
I look forward to it, and if something happens where I can't make it, I'm gonna figure out a way to at least have this little podcast sponsor and throw some prizes out so you guys can raise more money and do that. So you have my word on that. If I'm not maybe if I don't know. Is it rude to sponsor and attend an event? I've never.
No,
Okay.
it's not rude to sponsor, attend, be a judge, and get drunk for free, Chuck. I told
Well,
you
not
can
for
do
free,
that.
not for free. It's Snowstorm guy. I tried real hard. um, but all right. Well, then you'll get a little Strength Hammer sponsor, and then as I'm gonna do my best to attend as a player. If not, yeah, I'll probably schedule it out with the wife and be like, hey, I'm gonna be gone this day, and I will be helping you. Big
yeah,
bunny
just
quotes. I'm helping
strength,
the event.
strength hammer just for you, Chuck. I'm
Oh
doing
boy.
this podcast on a yoga ball. So,
Heck yeah! There's the bounce. There's the bounce. Well, since Google Meet's telling us time is running out, Neil, where can they find you on social media?
You can find me a little bit on Twitter at Neil Larocca. I more retweet things and look at people's awesome hobby on there, but you can find me there. And then on Ren4 on Facebook, you can find us there.
Awesome. Steven, where can they find you? And Brewhammer.
well, the Brewhammer is at Columbus Brewhammer or COL Brewhammer on Twitter, and I am at smatta84 on Twitter as well. We also have the Central Ohio Warhammer Facebook group and Central Ohio Age of Sigmar Facebook group, and pretty much anywhere we throw things on Ren4 too. We pretty much any platform that we are on, we splash stuff out. So
Nice.
I always think of Central Ohio and Ligonier. I always feel like they're like sister pages, right? You know, like it's all just kind of one group that's got their own kind of location.
you are definitely our fetus twin, Neil.
Yeah.
We happily accept you.
There you are. There you are. Well, like I said, I've already claimed. I claimed Akron as part of the East Coast. Took it from the Midwest, and no one fought me. So I'm gonna kind of reach over and take Columbus too. You guys are no longer in Midwest.
That's what we need to do, Chuck. That's what we need to do. You get your guys, I'll get my guys. We're gonna fight over Neil and Akron, and the winner gets to claim him, and we'll do it every year.
I'll get
Actually, Sean wants to do a little bit of a inner club war at some point. He was pushing this hard at the end of the event, so I told him, it's just like, my guys, we don't play good.
Well, hey, I'm all for that, and just remember, I probably have Bill Souza on my side. So thank goodness for that. But anyway,
maybe we'll just kind of pull him this way.
You can find me everywhere at strengthhammer_. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Steven, thanks for coming on. Neil, thank you for coming on as usual. And we'll catch you guys next time. Stay Stormcast strong.
Yep. Take care.
Yeah.